How y'all doing? For this book review, I'm going to go over Eternity Road by Jack McDevitt, written back in 1997. Picked this up at a used bookstore here, and it's a one-off science fiction story. Why did I grab it? Well, it's because of this guy right here.
I want to tell you about a new writer that if you don't know about, you should know about. That's the way I want to tag off these anecdotes. Jack McDevitt. You got to get Jack McDevitt's books. This is his latest one, Eternity Road. You've seen some of the others, The Engines of God, A Talent for War, Ancient Shores. They're terrific books. This is the new one, Jack McDevitt. He's as good as any of the other writers I've talked about on this show. See you next time.
For those of you who don't know, that was the late Harlan Ellison, doing a bit for the Sci-Fi Channel back at a time when it had potential. It was still worthy of watching, but I digress. Harlan Ellison did bits like that through Sci-Fi Buzz, which is a little, if I recall, a little program that Sci-Fi Channel had that talked about science fiction through, books, games, movies, what have you, the sci-fi, science fiction culture at large. And Harlan Ellison did a whole bunch of bits. That one right there is some other channel had it, but you can find most of them through Harlan Ellison's own channel of segments of Sci-Fi Buzz. Worth watching there. Well, with that being said, let's talk about the book. The story takes place in some unknown distant future after our civilization advanced a little bit further than what it has been brought down due to a plague that wiped out a good chunk of humanity. And with that, a lot of people with any knowledge of how to run things as they were. So the cities are run down, the roads, as impressive to them as they are in ruins or buried in sediment over time, but impressive ruins as they are. So after the plague, people tried to build back up in the best way they can, and obviously not where they were before. For instance, while they're living in Mississippi, they don't have steam power, so you can go downstream, but it's hard to get upstream. They still use sails. There's no printing press, so literature from the past is very important. What they have to have handwritten, but they still have guns though. This does a pretty good job, although not perfect, on what people can build up from after the ruins of the civilization and what they don't, and you can see what they build up as far as government stuff like that. The people where the story begins are called the Illyrians. Now, despite all the lost knowledge of literature, science and engineering and stuff like that, concepts of that, they all hardly know anything about how the stuff worked in the past. There is this myth of a place called Haven. See, during the plague, a guy named Abraham Polk and a few others stockpiled a large amount of literature and books of knowledge of engineering and anything like that, and put it in somewhere north, as far as they know, in this underwater sanctuary, accessible according to what they have about it through an underwater vehicle, which is kind of odd to them. They don't understand steam power, let alone vehicles that go underneath, in the water. So they think a lot of it is a lot of myth making, stuff like that. But it did stop a few people. There was an expedition that that went out from the Illyrians to try and see if they could find Haven, and only one person returned. The survivor is a scholar and also leader of the expedition, Karik. He comes back, he tells us that he's empty-handed and everyone else died. He's the only survivor. Tragic as it is. He tells this to his other fellow scholar, Silas, and word gets about that, okay, the expedition didn't work, Haven's not found, probably still is a myth. 9 years has passed, and somehow, they found his body in the river. Apparently he took his own life. Nobody knows why. He kind of kept to himself after all these years. Now we go to another character, Chaka. She's a woman who has her own little jewelry shop there. About trying to settle down and get married. But the thing is, her brother was on that expedition. He was the artist. So, and the thing is that when he died, she was devastated. And she went up to Eric not too long after he came back. How did he die? Well, he died trying to ford a river. He was caught up in a current and he was lost after that, so he drowned. That was the official story. But something is interesting after Karik funeral. His son, Flojan, takes her and takes him into his study, and through a special unlocks a little drawer and gives her a copy of a Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's court. Supreme Edition. This is something that would set a person for, give them fame, because this is a great piece of literature. They have fragments of it, but this is a superb copy of this. And Phlogian gives her this. Now, apparently, he got this book from his expedition. This would have made, everything sort of worth it in a sense. Hey, you got a piece of literature that, that it gives insights to a previous world. Is a great, great work. He could have just set himself, pretty much for life with this in some fashion. Could gain his reputation as a scholar at the Imperium. But he kept it to himself. Why? This, leaves Chaka, wondering, is the story about her brother officially true? She's beginning to have doubts of what happened there. Why was Eric's body found in the river? If he took his own life, why? What truly happened to her brother? Is there still possible? Did they find haven in a sense? Where did he get the book? Why did he not talk? It's questions like this that leads her to start another expedition. She's going to need some help. So Chaka starts to tries to assemble a group, and the people she ends up collecting for this expedition is Silas, a scholar that was a friend of Karik Endine's heir, an older man, but he's a scholar of all this, and he was reluctant at first, but as a scholar, this is an opportunity to see if he can make the journey. This, it's not just doing for his own reputation and money. This is a case of helping humanity build back up further than what it is through the knowledge of the past, through literature and technology and all that. So it benefits everybody. We have Quate, who is a military man and also a former student of Silas, who was in the Imperium. So he comes along over here. Phlogian, Eric Endine's son, who, especially after Karik Endine's return, is that the father and son relationship is very strained. And he just wants to run his business, with shipping and all that stuff. But when he heard when he starts hearing the bar, how some people think about what happened to Karik Endine's, his expedition. One guy says, "Oh, he probably killed them all," and so he could keep the book for himself and what have you, because word got out that the Connecticut Yankee King Arthur's Court by Mark Twain is, inherited her. Word spreads fast. But despite a strange relationship, even he is like, "I'm going on this, expedition. I want to find out the truth." Just to clear up his father's name. Another character is Avila, who is a priestess, the current religion there, who has a lapse of faith because she's trying to heal through the best means she can, but it's not working. So many people, with all the people kept dying, and all that, she just loses faith. So she's now kind of leaving the faith, so to speak, which is pretty bad if she wants to stay here. So she's joined the expedition to help out. And now, of course, we need an outdoorsman, hunter, and tracker. So they get Shannon, reluctant to join up there, but he decides to give him a hand. So he can identify the marks, he can give basic survival skills, and that's the expedition off to find the mysterious haven. And hopefully they will find, not only hopefully to find a place, or if anything, they can find what happened with Eric's expedition. So that's the premise of this book. This is a small group leaving on an expedition to try and see if they can find out what happened to the last expedition. Did they find haven? Is it truly a myth? Even if they don't find, it, can they find something to help, that will benefit everybody? And there are some people that have personal reasons why they're going there. Will Phlogian clear his father's name, of his reputation? Will Avila, the priestess, find renew her faith, or find another new meaning to her life? So there's some people have personal reasons, some people, and there's also the overall reason that if they do find it or find something along the lines, will it benefit humanity by building back up into a better future? Will any of them survive all this? This is a pretty dangerous journey. I mean, we take it for granted in our society, where we have highways and traveling all that, but they're on foot. They may follow the roads, but the roads are not in great conditions. Some of them broken down, covered up, and what have you. And there's still the cities, ruins of that, and it's not all dead. They find, old technology, some of it still works, some of it much more advanced than ours. Artificial intelligence computers, they just think as spirits. They find, and during the last expedition, Chaka's brother, who was also an artist, drew pictures of places and events. Some of them, their guides, their frontiersmen, Shannon knows that, I know this part right here, so we know that we're on the right track. But it was also, by finding marks, they find some mysteries. Like, for instance, there's one picture called dragon's eyes in a forest. Some forest with these large eyes. Did we find that? What is it truly? They find technology still automatically running that's more advanced than ours. So this is a fun little novel that explores technology, and it's also a good exercise about if our society advances further and it all breaks down, and the people who come after it, how would they view us? How would they understand our old technology? It's not new, but it's a good take on it. I look upon this as not perfect. I kind of wonder, how is it that people who can make firearms require metalwork not know to shape letters and make a printing press in a primitive fashion? And this could be a tangential novel about, how technology develops from the past. For instance, speaking of the printing press, when Johannes Gutenberg built it, but what's the details that he did to do it? How come they didn't build it back in ancient Greece? Why is it now? And how did they make it to where this printing press was able to mass produce? There's a documentary on YouTube that actually explains that. But it's wonderful, it's details like that makes you wonder how technology is built, and and stories like this tell us how we take it for granted. I enjoy it. For those of you who like good traditional science fiction, and I tend to think that it was probably up till the 90s, maybe 2000s, that science fiction as we know it, that classic ideas like Asimov and all that probably reached its end over there. I could be wrong. You'd probably think of examples of today's stuff, but Eternity Road is a nice single one-off novel by Jack McDevitt, published in 1997. The cover alone, you can't judge a book by its cover, but a cover should tell you what to expect about this. In this case, it does illustrate the ruins of the world, and you see a little wagon right here that tells you what happens to people in the future. But as I said, it's a good adventure story that is, you see their hardships and you can see the results. Will they succeed for their personal and through societal means if they ever do find this place? Are the stories of what happened in the last expedition true? I may be repeating myself, but again, this is a good character-driven story, and Harlan Ellison has a good reason to recommend it. Thank you all for watching. You have a nice day.